Hey guys, Kirk here, and thank you for joining me on a new video on the channel. In this video we're going to be looking at Gaea and creating a height map for our game world or our series, Build Worlds V2. Over the past few videos I've showcased sculpting a game world in the engine. Just as a little point out now before we continue, I will proceed to keep using that game world that I've sculpted because I do prefer to have the ability to change the world as I'm going along when creating the world as a whole. I just thought I'd come on and showcase Gaea. Gaea is a very powerful tool if you want to create worlds in Unreal Engine or Blender and other things like that where they will accept a height map. Gaea is very powerful for that. There's lots of resources on the website which we're on now, what you can see, and there's a lot of channels out there. Well, let's just say there's more channels than for other software than there is for Gaea, but there is a couple on there, I can't remember the name of them, where they go into great depths of how Gaea works. And essentially their channels are just dedicated to using Gaea, just like mine is dedicated to using Unreal Engine, and you'll find like Blender Guru is dedicated to just using Blender. The point I'm making is there's lots of channels out there that are just dedicated to using Gaea to create stunning environments like you can see on screen here. Keep in mind though guys, this is not a beginner tutorial or full-on tutorial on how we're going to use Gaea. All I'm going to do is showcase my approach to using Gaea just to create a height map. What you're seeing on screen here with all these weird colours on these terrains are full-on edited height maps with all terrain colours and where they add all different things to it. This is like a full completed version. Once you do that, you could just add it straight to your engine and it's all built and ready to go for you. But yeah, like I say, there's a lot of channels out there that are just solely dedicated to Gaea. So as you can see on the screen, if you want to get Gaea, you can use Gaea for free, but the maximum resolution you can go for is 1K when it's free. But if you purchase a license, I did last year, it cost me £99, believe it or not, to purchase a license, but I have got my money's worth out of it, or should I say return on investment. But yeah, it's a really good bit of kit. I must stress, and I can't stress enough, that this is not a full-on tutorial on using Gaea because I simply don't know the full extent of how to create even worlds like you're seeing on screen here in Gaea alone. So I would essentially be lying to you if I started to do tutorials on Gaea. But on screen here you can see we've got a download tab. You'll go ahead and click on that, and this is where you can get Gaea, and obviously it shows all its changes that it makes in updates and all this good stuff. So if you're looking to use Gaea or you want to follow along with this simple build, then you would have to download it from here. It is free to use, like I say, but you can only export at 1K, where I will be able to export at 4K or higher. So yeah, that's done with the introductions. Let's jump over to Gaea and see what we can do. Hey guys, so now we're in Gaea. When you finish downloading and registering to our website and all that good stuff and finished installing Gaea and you open it for the first time, you should be presented with this screen. And essentially we've got Gaea open, and this is the splash screen, the start of Gaea if you like. All these here are just things I've been working on in the past, so it has your recent files here. At the side here you have a load of templates. You could start with blank, snow, cliff and all these other ones that are already built, and you can just dive in there and maybe add more primitives or more masks and all this good stuff. Keep in mind, if you click on this little button here, if I just click on that, you can hover over these and an image will come up with what kind of templates are within that category blank. So if I hover over these, you can see this little image approaching here. It's not approaching, it's just popping up. And if we just keep moving down here, you can see the kind of landscapes that you'll be presented with once you click on this particular template. Each and all of these have their own templates, so if I click on the snow and go on here, you can see it's coming up with these mountain peaks like it did on the blank, but it's added snow to them. Some really good templates here. I've used quite a lot of them when editing new Heightmaps. These are particularly good, the landscape ones. Like I say, just move your mouse on each word, on each name, sorry, and it'll showcase a little image of the terrain itself. But yeah, so you could go in and use these templates, like I say. That's completely down to you if you are not really bothered about how the landscape looks, which is probably not the right stepping stone to take when creating a landscape for Unreal Engine. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to click on blank and start with a blank canvas, and I'm going to briefly go over now what the UI is and what you can do and all this good stuff. Like I said at the start of the video, guys, this is not a tutorial on how to use Gaea. I'm just going to go over the basics of what you would need to know when starting to use Gaea. So we'll start at the top left. You have your normal menu, which is like a file menu. You have new, open, save as, all the usual stuff in there. Then next to there you have, as you can see, it says Untitled.tor. tor is the file support name for Gaea. And you can see it's untitled, but if I click save, it'll ask me to name it, and then that name will appear there. Here you have your UI resolution, or preview resolution for the viewport if you like. I'm going to leave it on 0.5K. Essentially it means 512. And then you have the mesh quality, the preview quality. If I click on this, you can have low, medium, high. If I hover over it for the tooltip, it will showcase what they are. So low is 512, medium is 1K, and so on. So your high would be 4K, and then ultra would be 8K. Like I say, this viewport resolution. With this viewport resolution, this just showcases how high detailed this plane is when you're creating your terrain. I would highly recommend when starting and learning to keep it on 0.5. If I was to click on 4K quad spinner, or should I say Gaea will ask you, are you sure you want to do this, because it requires a lot of computing power, i.e. it will need 64 gigs of RAM and a really high-end video card to render out in 4K at a decent pace. I've certainly not got 64 gig of running memory, but I do have 32. And I just typically leave it on 0.5. Once I've finished my build in the graph window here, and it's looking kind of like what I want it to look like, I will then go ahead and change this to like a 2K, just to get a more visualization of the details of the Heightmap. Okay, so next that you have new and open. These are same as these, new and open here, just a shortcut to it. Then you have save, and this one is a save incremental, so this is like kind of auto save if you like. You can do that, and then you have undo and redo. So if you make a change you don't like, you can undo it, or you make a change and delete it, you can redo it. Okay, moving on from there, you have this little dongle thing here at the top. Essentially what this is just showcasing the north of your map, as you can see there. It just allows you to better orientate yourself when viewing in the viewport. I am moving it here, I'll get to that, how you do that shortly. So up here at the top right of the 3D viewport, you have a rotation, or orbit if you like, where you can orbit around your map, or you can go in first person and control it like you would when playing like a first person game, or any kind of video game like that. Below that you have a 2D, and essentially what this is, it opens up here. There's no information here, even though you're seeing a plane, there is no information until you start adding these primitives, which we'll get to shortly. What this is doing essentially, it's just going to showcase a bird's eye view of your environment vertically down. You can scale up and scale down the size as you see fit. Next to that is the show raw data. This shows the raw data of your height map. We won't need to use that just yet. But once you do click on that, you have an option that appears as well, which is an enhanced view. Never really use these, I just typically leave it like it is. Under that is the viewport settings, and what this is essentially is the location of the sunlight. Here you can orbit it around the environment with the, I'm not going to try and pronounce that word. You can just essentially rotate it around your environment, and then you have the sun elevation where it lifts it up, puts it right on the horizon. I tend to leave it vertically down onto my environment so I can clearly see what's going on. This is really powerful if you want to see what shadows are like, what it's going to look like, should I say, in engine. Under that you have like your atmosphere settings. You can increase the exposure, decrease the exposure, and all the typical normal stuff you would do. Advanced is your sun intensity, ambient intensity. All this, I wouldn't use it straight away. I'd go ahead and start using this kind of thing when you have some sort of world built already. Below that you have a little button, and what this is going to do is going to enable I'm still in first person mode. And what it's going to do is enable there to be some sort of environment. So if I go ahead and click on this, you'll see we're getting this horizon now, which I generally leave it on this, but it does slow down the viewport. I'm going to go ahead and turn 2D off so we can see what we're doing better. Okay, before we look at the rest of this, I just want to go over a couple of controls that you will most likely use. Okay, so to rotate round your world like this, you simply would need to hold the left Alt on the keyboard. Whilst holding that down, click and hold your left mouse button, and then you can just move the mouse and it'll allow you to rotate. Once you have done that, you can let go of them buttons now, and you can use your middle mouse button to scroll in and out so you can get a good look. If you click and hold your middle mouse button, that'll allow you to pan in a direction where your camera is facing, like so, as you can see. Right click and hold on the mouse is the same thing, but gives you, wait, that it's not working. Oh yeah, so if you hold left Alt on the keyboard and right click, hold it down, it allows you to zoom in and out with more accuracy. They're essentially the controls you'll only need when creating a height map or rotating around your environment. Below here we have certain graphs, should I say, that you can enable and disable. Like this one is, I forget the name, a reference grid. Never really use it, so I'm not sure what I'll be looking for. Orientation, this one. Show helpers, so that's just this widget here at the top. If I disable that, it'll just get rid of that widget. Here is the grid, so if I turn off the environment, you'll see this grid here. If I click that, I can get rid of that grid there if you don't want it on. Just some basic controls on using Gaea. Let's move down here now. So here you have a little graph. This is a graph where all your nodes will sit and where you build your world, and this is essentially the toolbox, and the toolbox holds all the primitives, geoprimitives, warps, which is your displacement and warping of your terrain. You have adjustments, profile, filters, erosion, and look dev. This is just for debugging, if you like, just getting a visualization of what you're trying to do. And then you have like your lakes, rivers and sea, and then you have some snow primitives and all that good stuff. The data layers here, the data nodes, these are quite important when you're trying to export masks for your environment. Like I did in Build Worlds V1, if you like, my first series, where I used the flow, the height, the slope, and some others here to create masks for the environment. So yeah, the toolbox is quite important, the graph is quite important. And on the right hand side here you have a properties tab, and you're not going to see anything here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start with a geoprimitive. which one shall I use? I'll grab the rocky one out. If I grab that and put it into the graph, it'll start to build, and then you get a preview of what this node is going to do. As you can see, it's giving me some sort of rocky ground, which looks okay actually. So on the right here you have the rocky properties, or this is the properties for any node that you put into the graph, and you can change a lot of things. Now I will admit I don't know what all these do. Only really experienced people will think, well, let's add a rocky in there, we'll combine it with this, and we'll set the intervals to this and all this. That someone who's really experienced with Gaea will know that, and these are the channels I was speaking of before, who are just completely dedicated to Gaea and using Gaea to create worlds. So I'm not going to go over all these properties because I simply don't know what they do. But you can get a general idea, like your size and small rocks you can increase just by clicking, and you'll see it'll start to build different things in your environment. So if I reduce the amount of small rocks and let it build, and you'll see we're getting a lot more flat plains on this environment right now. You can change the style. You've got A and B. So if I go to B, just got to give it time to build. As I change this to A, keep your eye on this node. You'll see a little wheel come spinning at the bottom. If I change this to A now, you'll see that little wheel, and what it's doing is building that node to the viewport. Going back to what we were talking about before with the viewport preview resolution, if you change this to 4K, that build we're talking minutes. If your machine is not powerful enough, we're talking minutes for that to build. So it's always good to stick with 0.5K whilst building your environment. You obviously have breakage. This is the breakage in the plane here, all these little breakages. If I increase that, you're going to see a lot more of them breakages like that. We can increase the small rocks, and then you get this like purling noise kind of look, and that's exactly what I am looking for. You can change the amount of jitter in there, so randomization if you like, and there we go. So yeah, you have a seed here. This seed is just changes how many of the, no, it doesn't really make changes, it just randomizes the amount of bumping going on here. I change that. You can also click on this, and what this will do, it'll give you a randomization of your seed, so it'll just randomize a value, and then you can just keep clicking it, and then why is it not doing it? Oh yeah, I'll just start here. And it just allows you, like I say, to randomize the seed of what you're doing. Okay, so I'm kind of looking for something like that, so I get a rocky ground. The best thing about this now is I can drag in another primitive. I'm going to go for a, what shall I go for? I'm going to go, not a ridge, let's try a slump. I don't believe I've ever used a slump before. So as you can see, I've dragged this slump geoprimitive node in, and it gives you a preview of what that does. As you can see, it's providing a lot of like slumpy hills and cliffs, if you like, into there. Don't forget you can change your scale, these parameters up here. If I reduce that, it obviously makes it a little bit more evil. You can change the noise scale, A, B and C, just like we discussed before. Like I said, this is all experimental, guys. It's non-destructive, so you can just change it to how you see fit. Having a good memory and realising what you've changed is a good benefit to have. Slump style, let's choose a C. You can see we're getting more of a Junie look. But it'd be good to add these two together. So these are looking quite mountainous, but there's not much details in the way of rocky. So what you can do is drag off the output of rock and let go of it. And this menu is going to appear now. You have favourites here, what will allow you to choose your favourites if you like. I'm not sure what Make Portal does, never used it before. Then below that, this is really powerful, suggested nodes. You have combine, erosion, displace, range and C. Let's see what that range does. Let's just see what happened here. So obviously it's done that. Wait there, I'll leave that there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to drag off that output again. I'm going to get what's a combine node. I'm going to get this combined. I'm going to put this slump into that combined. As you can see now, that slump's combined now with the rocky plane, if you like, and now we've got that rocky look of the mountain hills. I can click on rocky and change the size. Just let that build. Maybe reduce that size actually. I don't think it makes much difference, to be honest. Yeah, the height it does. If I click back on our combine, you can see now we're getting that rocky feel to our slump. Okay, so like every other node with these geo-primitive nodes, you have properties within the combine. In the properties here, I've got it straight set to blend, which is default. The ratio below it, essentially what the ratio is doing, it's going to, if I go this way, it's going to prioritize the rocky primitive, and if I send the ratio over to the other side, it's going to prioritize the slump primitive. If I set this to 50, which is bang down the middle, it will then combine them both together. But it's not just blend you can use. You can go in there and get an add node as well, or you can get a screen and then maybe subtract, which is just flat, no point, multiply, which allows you to multiply what's going on. If I send this over that way a bit, maybe this way, I don't like multiply, so we'll divide it. You can see we're just getting some strange results from that. A good one I like to use is power. It's obviously gone the wrong way for me. I'd have to really get low with that, I think. But yeah, as you can see, it's given us a flat plane. This would be really good to export as just a mesh. You could add it into your world. It looks quite good as like some sort of rocky floor or something like that. But I'm going to keep it on blend. We'll go like that because that's the kind of look I'm looking for. The good thing about this is you can still add more. So if I drag on that range, get another combine, and then put that into the output there. And now I've added that range geo primitive to our combine. I'll put it above there. If I click on the combine node now I've got the range, the rocky and the slump all combining together. You see we're still getting the bumps from the rocky primitive, we're getting the slump ranges, and now we're getting that solid range. What I'm going to do, I'm going to reduce this ratio just like this. You can see now we're getting some sort of traverse mountain looking range. It's all about just experimenting, guys, and finding a good range at what you want. I did prefer it. I'm going to go for like a 40% here. That looks quite good, like so. And then I shall drag off that mask, favorites, and then I'm going to get a purling mask, and there you go. That's completely destroyed it. That's essentially what you can do, guys. You can add masks to it as well, which is give us some very large mountain ranges. This is quite nice actually. Doesn't look it, but it is actually quite nice. If you're looking for that kind of thing. Okay, so let's scale that down a bit. Oh, no. Let's get rid of that. I don't like it actually. Okay, so now we're back to our combine. Is this what I'm looking for? Let's click on that range. High altitude with base. There you go. Now click on the... There we go. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Just a random landscape that could be used in engine. We probably could sculpt with this, but this probably looks like a good starting base for the kind of landscape I want. Now obviously it doesn't look the best, so what we're going to do, we're going to move on to the erosion tools. A good one to start with on the erosion is Wizard. I always find adding a wizard in there gives us lots of options, and as you can see straight away, it gives us some sort of relative aspect of what we want. Okay, so now we're at this stage. I'm going to save it. I'm just going to overwrite. No, I'll save a new one actually. I'm going to go build world v2 tut. Yeah, I'll just save it. As you can see now at the top left, we've got build world v2 tut, just like I explained before. Okay, with this wizard, you have a lot of options here. I kind of like craggy sometimes. Some nodes like this, as you can see, you need to apply the changes. Essentially what this is what they're doing is they're allowing you to make a change, but then you need to apply it, because if it automatically applied, then your machine would slow down incredibly quick. There is a way to make this auto save. I think it's that. I'm not 100% sure, but if I do a normal, you see it's automatically changing, so I don't have to save. So strength, I'm going to go for high on the erosion, and you can see straight away we're getting some sort of mountain ranges appearing on our height map now. It's quite good. I'm going to go for a low there. I want to make this range a little bit bigger. Let's reduce that chaos and bend the seed. That kind of looks okay actually. Click back on the wizard and we can see what we've got here, like so. Obviously, like I say, this is not going to contribute to my series. I'm just showcasing using Gaea, but this is getting a little long. But yeah, like I say, you've got all these properties here you can change. You can change the channel width. So, not sure what that's done. And just gotta keep experimenting. Channels. Just gotta keep experimenting with what it's doing. If you make changes, like I say, to this wizard, and you don't like what it's done, and you think, wow, I wish I could start from the beginning, you can simply drag over it, delete it, and then grab the wizard again from the erosion primitives, and just add it back in there, and it will start off from normal. Okay, so now we've added a erosion. I'm going to go for swept away, apply changes. Let's just see. You can see here these bars here are signifying that it's loading. So I'd highly recommend just waiting for that to load. That loading would get exponentially longer if your resolution. Oh, I don't know. I quite like that, you know. I do actually. That'd be good for a game world actually. Oh, that's nice. Let's soft density. Let's build this, see what happens. Oh, it's quite interesting in that. It's giving me some good thoughts. That has. There's a couple of erosion nodes I want to add as well, which will make this look better. Yeah, that's quite nice. I'm actually going to keep it like that. That is quite nice actually. Okay, so moving on. There's two more nodes that I do like to add to an environment. One is the most common one you'll ever use, which is erosion, and this is just let's get rid of that. This will just add erosion, the effects of erosion to your environment. As you can see there, that's a nice effect. Like I say, come in here, play with all these if you want. I'm going to auto save these at the minute. There you go, you get a nice bit of erosion. Now it just looks like a flat rocky land. That's quite nice actually. I'm probably not going to go for that. I'll go for a 30. There you go. 30%. That's quite nice. And what this has done, guys, it's added that erosion. You can see here on this mountainside, that's all erosion created from this node. Rock softness, I'm going to reduce that because I don't want soft rocks. There we go. Quite like the look of this, guys. I'm probably going to aim for this. There's one more node I want to add in here, and that's the Alvarium. This just adds a little bit more erosion and gives more of a linear fall off to the sides of a mountain. Selected the wrong output again. Drag that in there. And now you can see we've added erosion in there, but you've also got this sandy looking bit here, as you can see here, which is quite nice. That's what that Alvarium node does. Very good node. But overall, I'm quite liking the look of this, you know. I'm probably going to stick with this. Okay, so I'm going to right click on the Alvarium. I'm going to set this as pin as underlay. And essentially what this means is if I change anything else in this whole tree, it will still view this Alvarium in the viewport. I'll click on the range, change a bit more chaos in there, and go back to the Alvarium. And it's going to automatically build that up. Sorry about that. My coffee mug at Coles there just stuck to the bottom of my mug. Okay, so it seems to me like that Alvarium doesn't like that. Let's have a look here. I'm going to stop pinning as underlay. It seemed to didn't like that. But I'm not going to go any further. I'm going to save this because I do like the look of this, guys. I really do. Okay, so what we need to do is extract our Heightmap. Let's have a look here. Yeah, I do like it. That's very nice, actually. We need to extract this as a Heightmap. So what we're going to do is choose our last node. Keep in mind from here, you can go in here and start adding all your look dev, your datas. Like if I drag in here now, a height data node, this preview is flat because no blah blah blah. And then I'll put that into the input. And I'll click on the 2D and you can see there what kind of Heightmap it is doing. If I right click on this now and pin as underlay, and then go ahead and click on height again. You can see there this is the Heightmap it's generating. That's a little bit much for me, but you got to mess around with fall off. It's too much. Let's reduce that. You can see where it's creating it here as well. I set this minimum. So, ooh, that's too much. Ooh, there. As you can see here in this 2D image, this is the Heightmap creation. So essentially, you could create it like this. Your peaks will be absolutely stupidness. A lot of mathematics needs to come into this as well. You need to add masks to it. But essentially, that could be used as a Heightmap, but it would look extremely ridiculous. What I prefer to do when exporting a Heightmap is just simply right click on it on your last node and mark for export. And this one node here, what I've marked for export, is going to be the Heightmap. And that's essentially it. Let's shut that 2D down. What I have here, guys, I'm happy with that. I'm going to use that in Unreal Engine to showcase what Gaea can do. But yeah, it's quite nice that might actually be a good game world when looking at it. Okay, so now we've right clicked on our last node. We're going to go and, like I say, mark for export or press F3. What I like to do as well is click on it and press F2 and change the name. I'm going to call this Height Map. It will ask you to show you what to change the name. Say yes, it'll change it to Heightmap. Okay, so at the top here where we've been using this properties panel, next to it is a build panel. And what this is doing now is set the Heightmap, what I've exported, what I've pinned for export, it's put that here. And you can see it's changed the name to Heightmap. One thing you would need to do is change from TIFF. You don't want TIFF. The ones you would most likely want to use is for a Heightmap is PNG or RAW. I'm going to go with RAW because it adds a little bit more detail in there, which you would need. Below that you have a normal build, a split and tiled preview. For this, because in the series I'm using world partition, That's the same thing as what I'm going to do for this height map. So just go for a normal build. You don't need to do a tiled build because that creates a lot more problems. That's why it's still in preview there. So I'm going to go for normal build. You can see I've got a resolution of 2K here. You can change the resolution here. As you can see, you got a 512, 1K, 2K, 4K, 8K and 16K. I wouldn't recommend this unless you're trying to build GTA or something, but still you'll need quite a few more than that. The good thing about Gaea now is at the bottom of here, if you scroll right down, you have actual Unreal measurements there. So you have 127, 253, 505, 1009, 2K, 4K and 8K. This is brilliant. This was not in here when they first created Gaea. It was only added later by the community, asking for it all the time. What I'm going to do with this, I'm just going to go for a 217 because I'm showcasing how to export and import a height map. I don't think I'll carry on using it, to be honest. I'm going to export this at a resolution of 2K. Everything else by default is completely fine. I've never really changed these, and I've created quite a few height maps in Gaea now, and I've never really used these or changed them, and I've never had problems. Okay, so at the bottom here you have start build and a build destination. You just simply click on this little box here at the side and it'll open up your folder viewer. I'm just going to go in builds. I've got, as you can see, I've got one here already. I'm going to create a new one. We'll go in there, new folder, and we'll call this build worlds B2 F1, which is final. Okay, we'll go in here, we'll just select folder. Okay, so that's essentially where I am saving my height map to. You could go ahead and press start build. What we have here at the bottom is a terrain definition. And essentially this is giving us the height and the scale of our terrain, which is fine. We've got a height ratio scale of 0.52, which is pretty default, in all honesty. It's given a build time there of 14 seconds. I highly doubt it will take that long, or it could, essentially. But as it stands, I'm quite happy. I'm going to save that. And I'm just going to hit build. I've got my height map, which is, I'm doing it in a raw format. I've set the destination where I want to save it. This is very important when importing into Unreal Engine, but I'll showcase that in the next video. But for now, I'm ready to build this. So I'm just going to head and click start build and just let this build. You'll see this box appears and it'll start building all the primitive nodes that we have assigned in our graph editor. Like I say, it's going to build now, so what I'll do, I'll come back once it is finished. Hey guys, so as you can see, that took around 14 seconds to 20 seconds, so the build time was correct. But as you can see here, we've got a height map and the sediment height map. The sediment height map, I'm not sure what you do with that. I've never used it, but the height map is definitely what we need. And now we have our height map, we want to import it into Unreal Engine. So let's move over there. Okay guys, welcome back and welcome to Unreal Engine 5. Okay, so now we've created our height map in Gaea. We've got our location of our height map. It's very important to keep that location. What I want to do is showcase how we're going to import this into Unreal Engine using the correct calculations. So what I've done here, I'm using my project Build Worlds V2, but I've created a new level. So I've gone up to File, New Level, and I've chosen the Empty Open World. The reason I've chose Empty Open World, and that's just so we can get the world partition involved as well. So I'll go ahead and create an Empty Open World using the new level thing. I've already done that, and once you do that it will be completely dark. Don't worry about that. Come up to Window at the top, go to your environment light mixer, click on that, and then as you can see I've already done it here. You can see you'll have a load of words up here like directional light, skylight, sky atmosphere, volumetric clouds, and exponential height fog, and all that. Just go ahead and click on all of them. Once you've done that, save your level, and then you should end up with something like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is come to the selection mode, landscape, and then you can see here we're on the landscape, create new section. What we need to do is import from file, enable edit layers, make sure that's enabled, and then it's asking for your Heightmap file here. If you're unsure about Unreal Engine, then I have lots of videos on my channel about Unreal Engine, so go ahead and subscribe and go and check them out. But from there you can see we have Heightmap file. We'll go ahead and click on this, and we want to find where our Heightmap file was saved. So luckily here I've got some Heightmaps already, and you can see I've got BWV2 F1, which I saved in before. I'm going to open that, and this is our Heightmap here, what we just created in Gaea. I would highly recommend finding where your Heightmap is. If you're unsure, you would have to open Gaea again and go to where you saved it and find it, copy the address and put it into your file browser here. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit Heightmap, click open. Okay, as you can see now, it's opened up a template of our Heightmap. It doesn't look great at the minute because it's not set up correctly. But yeah, that's it. So, if I remember correctly, with our digits in Gaea, our height scale was 2600 and our total scale was 5000. Generally 5000 is the ballpark figure for Gaea when exporting. Pretty much all of your Heightmaps will be around 5000, unless you go for more landscapes within Gaea. This should be fine. So, to calculate the correct scale of our Heightmap in Gaea, what we need to do is come to the scale here. I've got to give a shout out to CG Dealers or something like that on YouTube. I've been communicating with him over the past week via email. He's got a very good channel there, quite a lot of subscribers. He's got some really decent videos. I'd recommend going checking his channel out, but I did kind of watch his video when he did the scale measurements for the Heightmap from Gaea to Unreal Engine, and is correct in what he's doing. So I've kind of learnt from what he's done, but made my own additions to it as well. So what I do when calculating the scale, we're going to start with our terrain scale, which is 5000. So if I go 5000 like so into the scale X, just type 5000, and then we want to multiply this by 100, which is transversing into centimeters for Unreal Engine centimeters. Sorry, I had a brain fart. So I've got 5000 multiplied by 100, and then we're going to hit divide, and we want to divide it for our Heightmap resolution, which is 2017, and then just press enter, and that'll set the correct scale of our Heightmap up like that. Okay, so now we've got the correct measurements for our scale of the landscape. We need to do a bit more calculation for the Z scale. Essentially in here, what we need to do is multiply our scale again by put it into centimeters again, like 5000 times 100, but there's a certain digits that we need from the Unreal documentation, so we'll jump over there. Okay, so now we're on the Unreal Engine documentation on the landscape technical guide. I will leave a link for this in the description below, along with a link for Quad Spinner's Gaea, which is already there. They're in all my videos actually, Gaea. And essentially what we need to do is to calculate our scale with our height, and we need this number. Where is it? This number here. This one right here, and this is what we multiply our Z scale with. So I'm going to hit left control and C and copy that. That's the number we need. Like I say, I'll probably leave this value in the description as well. But essentially you would need to come to your landscape technical guide, scroll down to where it says calculating Heightmap Z scale, and then it gives you a load of nonsense here. In my eyes it's nonsense. The best way to represent what you want from your Heightmap in a Z scale is by eye. So I would generally do that by eye until I liked what I seen, and that is probably essentially the best way to do it. But I'm showcasing here what they'd say is the official way. The scaling of the X and Y, where I've done 5,000 times by 100 divided by the resolution of the Heightmap, that's the correct scale to get the correct size of your Heightmap on the X and Y axes. But your Z scale, even though a lot of people make it out it's very important, it's probably a lot less important than getting the correct scale of the X and Y. The Z scale is not a major deal because you can change it at any point yourself as well. You could put this calculation in there and it turns out not how you like it, so you could add some more depth to it. It's completely up to you. So what we need to do now, we've got this value here. I'm going to right click and copy it again. I'm going to jump back over to Unreal Engine, and now we're back in Unreal Engine. We do need to do the same calculation as we did on the X and Y, so that's 5,000 times by 100 to get our landscape in centimeters, and then we want to multiply it again by that value we copied. So I'm going to go left control and V, and now we've got that value, and just go ahead and hit enter, and then your landscape will move down like so, and we've got a value there of 976,000 centimeters for that scale. And for me, that's how I would approach it. With the calculations of the scale of a Heightmap, it's not the most important thing in the world. Unreal Engine think it is. They're probably right and I'm not. But from experience and from lots of work that I've done in the past, the calculation I've just done with the X and Y is a lot more important with the Z than the Z. You could come in here now and we'll click import. We'll see what happens. Keep in mind, now I'm importing, that I left the world partition grid size at 2. If you're unsure about the world partition grid size, then go back a few videos to the start of the series where I do go into great depths of world partition on landscapes. Okay, so now our landscape is in here. It looks like it's not, but it is. I've got my landscape tab here with all my proxies inside for world partition. I'm simply just going to drag that into my landscape folder like so. I've got my landscape folder and my data layers and partition minimap and all that good stuff. Okay, now you're probably thinking, well, there you go, he's imported his Heightmap. Where the hell is it? Simply come onto your environment lighting, click on your exponential height fog, and just drag it down. There you go, voila. And now, very white, isn't it? So yeah, our Heightmap is now in Unreal Engine, and it is relatively at the correct scale as what you're seeing in Gaea's or Quad Spinner Gaea. But yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. So if I right click here, play from here, and yeah, and there we go. Now our Heightmap is in, it's at the correct scale just from a few simple calculations, and now we have our own little world in Unreal Engine. Okay, so hello, where have you gone? Let's close that down. Okay, so unloaded. So I'm just going to click save. Let's save all these up. So what we need to do now is to restart the level because these are unloaded for some reason. So what I like to do is go to File, Recent Levels, Reset Map. Click on that, and I'll reset the map. And then I'll go Recent Levels, Build Worlds V2 Test. Click on that, and there we go. And now we're back to normal. And now you can see in the world partition screen that I can go ahead and load and unload these selections from world partition. That's not worked correctly because I'm more concentrated on the Heightmap and Gaea. I would have to do this again, but never mind, it's all good. But now we have our Heightmap in Unreal Engine all the way from Gaea, what we've created in this one tutorial, and that will be it for this tutorial anyway. I do want to apologise for the length, but I do like to go into details of what I'm doing, even though I don't 100% know everything about Gaea and how it works. I certainly wanted to showcase how you could just throw a few primitives and nodes together to then get a Heightmap for Unreal Engine, and just showcase how quick and easy it is to make a Heightmap for your game world. So yeah, hopefully you found this useful, and now you've got your world in here. I do have a lot of videos coming up for this channel. In the next video we are going to start by working on our landscape shader, because you need a landscape shader to make your environment look good. So that is it. I've spent the last few videos sculpting a game world in Unreal Engine by hand, and I thought I'd use this video to showcase building a world in Gaea, transferring over to Unreal Engine via a Heightmap, and showcasing what I would say is an all-round correct scale to get your environment right without all this confusing calculation crap. It's very simple to calculate the right scale of your Heightmap. Okay, so like I say, if you found it useful guys, like the video, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell and all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next video where I will get to my best, which is creating a landscape shader. Thank you. Goodbye.